You're very welcome to another episode of Words of Wisdom. I am Father Cyril Odia. I'm a Salesian priest and I'm here in our community in Maynooth University in Ireland. I'm very happy to welcome you to this episode. We're going to be looking at a very interesting topic today, which is long friendship with the Lord. Sometimes I just wonder what you remember about your childhood and maybe the friends you had when you were growing up. Friends that were with you when you were in school. Maybe some people that have very, very nice memories or gifted memories. They can even remember when they were in preschool. So I'm talking about 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, friendship you had at that time. Maybe when you were still in the kindergarten and you had all your classmates and peers, and you still remember something about them. Maybe their names or the lunch pack they used to bring to school. And I also remember growing up, some of the friends I went to school with as a child. Many of them I've lost contact with. Some of them, maybe they moved to other parts of the world, and as life is, some have died. But it's very important that those early friendships or those early experiences we had with our friends and maybe people we grew up with, we do not underestimate the value that has contributed to what we are today. You see, even when we look at our families, maybe nowadays people don't want to have many children. It's a very sensitive topic, but that seems to be the reality, that you have people having very few children nowadays. But a few years ago, people could be in a household of 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, maybe 14 siblings. And so the relationship that happens within the domestic family, between the dad and the mom and all of these siblings together, gives you a very interesting dynamic of long-term friendship. And then you have maybe older and younger ones who have different takes to life, different characters, even things like colors that they prefer, kind of music, their prayer life, different levels of generosity, kindness, attention, support for one another during time of illness or during time of maybe disappointments in life. And so some people from the domestic family at home, they build up their first experiences of friendship, long term, and it continues all through life. And as a priest, I find it very beautiful when I go to some families and you find them very elderly, maybe in their 70s, 80s, and they still are very, very united. Why? Because the friendship that was built when they were children, they've carried it down the line. And then they hope that their children and their grandchildren would continue with the same dynamics of being friends for life. Similarly, in our journey with God, in our journey of faith, we develop a long-term relationship that stays with us all through our life. Like any relationship, there may be up and downs, and it's very important to understand that the way we relate to our siblings and the way we relate to our friends definitely influences the way we relate with God. So if you are somebody who is kind, who is patient, who is understanding, and maybe you have good friends around you, I think it will be somewhat easy when we want to think about God that we cannot see, that is invincible, that is a spirit, and maybe try to see God in other people around us. Unfortunately, and we don't pray for this, but it does happen, we also have people who have got bad experiences and negative experiences, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And they also shape us. And so as we begin to develop our friendships, as we grow up into adulthood in life, we begin to see the kind of people that maybe don't help us. Maybe they introduced us to bad things that maybe we had to struggle with and overcome later on in life. Maybe we also had siblings or family members that introduced us to things that we are not proud of. And we had to work so hard to make sure that that does not happen to other people because we learned from those negative experiences. And similarly, in our journey with God, we might have instances where we've gone so far and maybe just completely threw God out of the window, so to speak. And there are people who have said, They were very close to God. Maybe when they were young, they were prayerful, saying their rosaries, reading their Bibles, maybe very active in the choir, singing in the parish church. They were volunteering, helping to clean the church, going to visit the sick, doing all kinds of charitable work, like an active, regular Christian. And then down the line, maybe they got to a certain stage of life, consciously or unconsciously, they just neglected God altogether. And they now go through these years of a broken relationship with God. No more prayer, no more mass, no more communion, no more confession, no more sacraments, and that could go on for years for some people. But on the other side, the friendliness of God remains. God is still waiting. He's still keeping the link open. And people are able to turn back by the grace of God and by the influence of the Holy Spirit working in our lives, and they now start coming back again to renew that friendship with God. And this time, I bet you, is usually stronger, because now they've gone the whole 9 yards. They know how it was before, they knew what they missed when they were far from God, and now they are back home and they are beginning that relationship again in a deeper level. And so I think it's always important that when we are in our journey with God, our journey of faith, we don't kind of stay as if we're in a very hurried relationship, because the maturity and the dynamics of our relationship with God also evolves and changes with time. And so there are a lot of writers, and also from the scriptures, we get a lot of examples of people who give us an example of deep relationship with life. The first one that comes to my mind as I speak to you now is the little boy called Daniel. So Daniel was somebody we know was a very great prophet. But when he started, he was a young man. And it was during the time of, a kind of persecution, we might say, and the Israelites were being ruled by people from other tribes and other cultures and so on. But he had his friends, they were together, they remained faithful to God. But because in their youth and as young people they remained faithful to God, it helped them to develop and to grow into adulthood. And the Lord was with them. So it's not too early to begin that personal relationship with God, and also influence our friends or our siblings and our peers, so that we too can bring them closer to God as young people. Another example that comes to my mind is Samuel. And of course, his own case was a bit tricky, because I'm just thinking about some children that are now maybe in a household where they were not really biologically brought up or born into. So you have people who were adopted, you have people who maybe they went to live with their siblings or other distant relatives, and they grew up and that is their new home. Some people don't even know their biological parents. They grew up in a home, but in that home, their relationship started with those in the house and also with God. And so in the case of Samuel, he was a young boy, and the mother dedicated him to the Lord, and he was staying in this kind of special family with the priests. The children were kind of far away from God, but he got a calling, and he went to meet Eli, who was the priest there, and he thought he was the one calling him. And if you have some time to go through the scriptures, it's a very beautiful story. But the point I just want to bring out from that experience is that he was not in his family house. So God can begin that relationship with you even if you are not in your biological home. You could even be in a far distant way from home. You can be in a different country. You can be in a different part of the world. You can be in a place where maybe you are the only one that is a believer in that environment, and you can begin your relationship with God there. And his son was very special, and God raised him to be a very powerful prophet. And through him, we know that the Lord directed him to get the first king of Israel and so on. So it is very significant that when we are talking about long-term friendship with Jesus or with the Lord, that we kind of are not in a hurry, maybe measuring the progress that we are making, but to be committed to stay for the long haul. What do I mean by that? For instance, people come into our lives with examples I've given before, and they are just maybe opportunists, or they are looking for maybe benefits, maybe for some advantages they can take, and once they are done, they disappear. And we see that in life. But that is not the kind of relationship we are building with the Lord. It's a relationship that is very steady. And the Lord is starting with us right from the wombs of our mothers. And then the Lord is going to continue with us up to the grave. And the Lord is going to continue with us after the grave. So we are thinking of something that is extremely permanent, long-term. That is why even sometimes, if we feel that the relationship is not too good at the moment, don't break the friendship. And if you feel the relationship is very nice right now, you are very happy with God, you are in cloud nine, you are so happy, everything is going on very well, hang on there just in case maybe things go down the drain at some point. Don't give up in the relationship because it is for life. I think that will remove a lot of tension from the hearts of people who are maybe thinking of how to please God, how to find favor with God, how to be at one with God, where you want everything to be perfect immediately. It's a long-term relationship. Having said that, we have to be wise because sometimes what is long-term? For some people, their lifespan is only 10 years, 20 years. People die at every age. So we should not be kind of, maybe I would say, childish or stupid to feel that I can delay my conversion because I'm having a long-term relationship with the Lord and this is going to endure till when I'm 80 or 90 and then, I can top up my quality of relationship with the Lord. But I suppose the point I'm just trying to make is that while we are now in relationship with God, if we feel it is not perfect, don't quit. Because the Lord is going to wait for you till the very end, whatever that end is going to be. I think another example we can get from long-term relationship with the Lord, from my own experience, are the friends that I have made in different places I have been working as a missionary. And sometimes we are not able to be together physically because of geographical distances and so on. But then we are still praying together because the mission is the same. Friends who have the same value, who want to help the poor, who want to help the sick, who want to help young people, who want to grow in their faith. And so ideas can be shared and projects can be organized together because we are pursuing the same values. And so distance is not a barrier to keep that kind of relationship going. It is the same thing with our spiritual journeys, that while we are on this journey together with the Lord, sometimes maybe we might change our jobs, maybe in the family, the children are coming up, or maybe there are other circumstances that are happening, and that is kind of affecting the time we have. Maybe we used to pray more, we used to spend more time in prayer, adoration in church, but physically we are struggling to juggle all of this together. So you don't need to feel guilty that maybe the relationship or the friendship is turning sour. It's just a matter of adding more people that are coming to join you in this relationship with the Lord. So maybe you are the one that used to pray alone before, but this time you have to bring your household together. And as they say, if you run alone, you might run very fast or you get tired very quickly. But if you go with the people together, then you can keep going for a long time. So always look out for people in any community where you are who are interested in long-term relationships. And even the marketers, they know that nowadays. Before you want to buy anything from them, the first thing they want to get from you is for you to put maybe your details and your contacts. It doesn't matter whether you are shopping only once and the rest, they will keep sending you things. They want you for a long haul. And that is what the Lord is also wanting with us. Come, make a commitment to the Lord. Don't worry if it's not yet perfect. The Lord will continue to sustain you and help you because He's interested in your long-term salvation. And then when we talk about eternity, eternal life, or the world to come, it might be very abstract because we don't know what's happening out there. Our brains are very limited to think about eternity, but that is what God wants. God wants a permanent, long-term relationship with us. And that is the invitation. And so you can accept that invitation right now to say, okay, I want to go into a long-term relationship with God. And then maybe you can filter through people that have been in your lives before that can help you get the right attitude to be in a long-term relationship with God, and then maybe filter out the ones that you feel were bad examples that you don't want to carry on with your relationship with God. Maybe things like honesty, dedication, hard work, patience, perseverance, kindness, this kind of maybe values that we cherish so much in our lives. I also want to quickly add that when it comes to friendship, the example of our human friendship is only an analogy In quality and in quantity, there is no comparison to the kind of friendship that the Lord is having with us. So sometimes even the best of our human relationships are not comparable to the kind of spiritual satisfaction and joy we get when we are close to the Lord. It's only an analogy, but they do influence the way we worship. They do influence the way we understand God and the way we think about God, because ultimately we are creatures, we are human beings, and we are influenced by our environment. I just feel that it's also quite important to look at the whole issue of maybe some of the tough examples we have in our lives from friendship. Personally, for me, I found racism very, very tough. And it's something that many people are going through as well. And we have to know how to cope with that also in our relationship with God. We don't know what color God has, if he's colorless or if he has any color. We're talking about his spirit, and probably all the colors are in God because he's kind of all in all and everything comes from him and goes back to him. But we have to be careful when we not start meeting people that are very narrow-minded, people who are still on their own journeys of conversions, and they are displaying elements of weaknesses, elements of their own, if you like, lack of sufficient education and so on, that they do not influence us and start thinking that maybe that is the way God is relating with us. Another example I can also give that I think we have to be careful about, maybe from my own experience, is the whole area of financial stability, because we have some people who maybe are coming from homes or backgrounds where they have a lot of financial security, and that can make them have a certain understanding of the kind of friends they want to make, people they want to hang out with, and even people they would like to marry. And there are some families that would never allow their children to marry people from poor homes or from a different backgrounds. They wouldn't allow that because they feel it's going to change their social status or whatever they have in their minds. So as a new generation of people growing up, especially for young people and the rest, you have to raise the banners very high and keep the bars very high so that when you are encountering people, you are not distracted with some of all of this maybe negative and very, if you like, low level of maybe friendships or, for example, that we see around us. Instead, we are invited to go for things that are much higher, like the examples I've given before, that you can have somebody like Samuel go in a different household, and he's the one that the Lord is going to use maybe to save the whole nation, or the one that the Lord is going to use to become a leader for the people. So when it comes to finances, when it comes to maybe education, when it comes to color, racism, caste, whatever it may be, all of those things are negative things that affect the way we keep our long-term relationships. But when it comes to God, none of those matter at all. And so God is the one that can be that long-term friend that we need permanently all through our lives, that we can bring to others. It's such a joy, it's such a blessing when people encounter God as a friend, as a long-term friend. It changes their lives for good, and we can see how they relate to other people. Everything just begins to fall in place. Why? Because now they have a permanent friend. They know that humans can fail them. Spouses can get divorced, partners can break hearts, people can cheat on each other, and criminals and all kinds of manipulators everywhere. We see all of those every day, people taking advantage of other people. So if we focus on those areas, life will become very, very boring. Life will become not interesting at all. But on the other hand, as I said, looking back, we have to pick at the good experiences, shine the touch on those ones, amplify those ones, and use those good experiences to overcome the negative ones, and let that one become our own standpoint, our own image. What kind of friend I want to be to people who are close to me? What kind of friends I want to be to my own family members? What kind of relationship I want to develop maybe in my faith group or with my neighbors, irrespective of what I see them doing. Because somebody needs to be that beacon of hope. Somebody needs to be that light. And sometimes you listening to me now, you know you have the capacity for good. You know what you can do to turn things around. Sometimes you are clever enough to see where there is the missing link, and you know you can step in there and change that. Don't hold back. Don't hold back. You might just be that example somebody needs to start believing in God again, that there is a friend in Jesus, that there is a friend in God, that if there are people like this still alive, therefore there must be a God somewhere. And I want to join that community. I want to be part of them. And so I think it's very significant anytime we are talking about friendship, not to look at it as something that is just transient, very short, but it's long term. But to sustain that long-term vision of friendship, we must pick out the good experiences we've had from our friends in the past, shine the light on those ones, and allow God to use us to become good friends to others. And finally, I just want to round up that it is good to make new friends. Don't be comfortable with the ones you know before, in your comfort zone, because there are people out there who are waiting for you, and you could just be that friend they're looking for in their lives. Be a good friend. Let people know what you stand for, your principles, your values. Let people be able to assess you, be ready to help in your local community or in your parish or in your school, wherever you may find yourself. Let people know that you are open for friendship. Don't be the one that is running away from friendship, or people cannot approach you, or people don't know how to approach you. You be the one to make the first move, to say you are willing to be a friend. And it doesn't cost much nowadays to be a friend, because sometimes what some people need is just a listening ear, or somebody. I just imagine some people now who kind of could be at home, very lonely, nobody talk to them, nobody say hello to them. They walk down the streets, nobody care about them. They walk into a shop, they walk even into the church, and nobody is saying hello to them. What does it cost you to smile? What does it cost you to say, hello, how are you? Hope you're having a nice day. Have a lovely weekend. It's good to see you. What's your name? Just say hello to someone. And that could just be the beginning of somebody having a chance to begin a new friendship. Friendship is something that we all need, and especially good friendship, and the one that will last for a long time. Don't go into friendship because you want to gain something immediately. That is the opposite of all what I've been talking about. Go into friendship for the long term. I want a friend that will be with me, that will support me, that will help me to gain salvation, and that will help me to understand that God is the friend that will stay forever, even if other friends are going to fall by the wayside. And to be in that wagon of those who are bringing people to the house of God, to come and find a friend in God, to come and find a friend in Jesus.